This next episode, I wanted to talk a little bit about my organization and how I like to do things. So with every project, it's a little different, but I do want to show you what I write in. It's this little thing right here. I got this idea from, of all people, George Lucas. He writes all this stuff in a binder. He wrote graffiti in it. Like, he's used the same binder since the 1970s. He wrote American Graffiti. He wrote the original Star Wars trilogy. He also wrote the prequel trilogy in the same binder. He's written everything in it. He'll probably write his experimental movies in there as well. But that is what I use as far as, writing goes. Now with some of the other stuff, and this is what I actually want to show you. Because this comes with research. Because this is based on a true story, I actually have to research certain things about it. And I'm using 3 books. This one right here, Von Cosel by Tom Swicegood, which uses articles from newspapers. I'll probably try to look for some of those for reference. But this this book right here actually feels kind of like a movie already. He probably made up some stuff to go along with it, because it reads like he did. And as you notice, I bookmarked some stuff, and as you can see right here, this is not something I always recommend, because you don't want to ruin a good book, but this is for research purposes. So, as you can see right here, made some highlights. Look at that. And as you go deeper into it, you may notice some differences. It changed color! Look at that. So that's only because I ran out of ink, obviously. But there are 2 other sources that I'm going to be going off of after I'm done with this. As you can see, I'm already finished. Another one is this, The Lost Diary of Count von Cosel. This was a diary that he wrote when he spent his time in jail. And then this one, Undying Love by Benjamin Harrison, who is the leading authority on Count von Cosel. It's kind of like S.T. Yoshi with, basically he is to Carl von Cosel what S.T. Yoshi is to H.P. Lovecraft. So, it's basically, my research is reading this, also printing out some articles like this one, but also, Carl Tanzler's Wikipedia page, as well as this right here, which talks about the history of medicine and health in the 1930s. This was when people were starting to rethink they were starting to rethink the healthcare system, and how people wanted to have, a universal healthcare system where everybody could have healthcare and nobody would be turned away. However, the way that it all went down back in those days, especially once the Great Depression hit, that never really became a reality. And it's still not a reality to this day. I'm also probably going to have to look up some things about Cuban culture, because Elena Hoyos was Cuban. So this is going to take a while, and I'm trying to crunch this down so I can get to writing. However, what's nice about this binder is I can write down my notes in this. Look at that. And so what I'm doing is I'm taking notes from these books. writing summaries of chapters and distilling it to its simplest form. Because the thing I want to avoid, especially with this, is I want to avoid doing word-for-word stuff from these books. I just want to go off of what they wrote about and, you know, the angles that they took. So, that's the research phase of it. In fact, I want to show you some of what this chapter that I'm reading. I already highlighted some stuff, but I want to start at the beginning. This way, you can kind of get an idea of my process, okay? And so when I get to the parts that I haven't highlighted yet, you'll actually see me highlight it, all right? Here we go. So Chapter 20, Dynamite. At this point in the book, Carl has taken the body. He moved to a place that he named Butcher Pen, which started off as a slaughterhouse, but then became abandoned. And at this point, a hurricane hit, and now some men from the WPA are coming in and they're bombing these, well, I shouldn't say that, even though they are using dynamite. They're coming in, they're cleaning up everything. Anyway. So, Chapter 20, Dynamite. Autumn 1936 to summer 1930. Sorry, autumn 1935 to summer 1936. Land links between Key West and Homestead were violently destroyed by the Labor Day hurricane of 1935. Soon thereafter, a memorial service for the storm's victims was held in Key West's Bayview Park. A drum and bugle corps marched in memory of more than 400 souls that perished on the Upper Keys and Isla Morada. Patriotic songs were sung. Experts warned residents to evacuate early when the next hurricane threatened. People in Key West were shocked, willing to grieve, to remember, and then eager to get on with their lives. The predicament of being isolated from the mainland was rapidly solved. P&O's deep-water steamship, Florida, went into service, linking Key West with Tampa, Miami, and Havana. Pan American Airways' new airlift connected Miami to Key West. Stern-wheelers temporarily bridged the highway's water gap. Within 3 years, the failed overseas railroad would be replaced by another world-class wonder, the Florida Keys Overseas Highway. An old problem, however, was no closer to being solved. Millions of blood-sucking mosquitoes continued to swarm Key West and the Keys. No one alive was immune. Do you know, Carl? There was a man with a plan to get rid of these little bastards, Frank said one particular annoying day. Who was that? Frank laughed, mirthlessly, swatting at his neck. Maybe you've heard of a fellow named Perky, R.C. Perky. Hated getting chewed by mosquitoes. He read somewhere that bats eat 600 mosquitoes an hour, and he figured at that rate a colony of bats would eat all the mosquitoes. So he built a bat tower up on Sugarloaf Key, imported 1,000 bats, and waited for the bats to do their job. And the project failed. There were too many mosquitoes. They ganged up and ate the bats. Von Kossel sighed. By the time April Fool's Day arrived, the island life seemed like it was getting back to normal. No pranks or much out of the ordinary happened on Rest Beach before 10 that morning. Sunlight and calm water encouraged a sense of security. WPA men, in their typical lackadaisical way, were working on cabañas. New workers who had only been around for several days were easily identifiable. They were showing interest in White Street's partially disintegrating concrete pier. "What do they want?" Von Kosel asked as Frank stood outside the German's front door preparing to leave for a day's fishing. "Looks like they're going to fix the pier, Carl. I've seen them drilling holes like they're taking core samples." Von Kosel stepped outside curious. He and Frank watched as 4 men on the pier began running toward the shore end. One of the WPA men, a big blonde wearing a bright red hard hat, cupped his hands and called something toward Frank and Von Kosel. It was difficult to understand what he was saying. Seconds later, a tremendous explosion shook the beach, sending rock and concrete flying into the air. So as I read, I'll highlight certain things that I deem important. I'm not going to read you this whole chapter because I know you guys have lives. So that's my research. So that's episode 2. If you have any questions or comments, let me know, and I will get to them as soon as possible, okay? Take care, guys.